So on Monday the 8th of April 2024, we had 20 students from Edinburgh University come to Orkney to look at all the renewables, and part of their visit included visiting Chris Wright's amazing workshop with all his renewables. So I was asked to go along and compare, so to speak. So after the bus had managed to park on Chris's drive, we got to it.
So if we're all happy, so welcome to Orkney and welcome to, what part of the world is this called?
Scotland.
Coyloo. That's right. So this is where Chris and Helen live. Good friends of mine from Derbyshire, because I'm from down south. I moved up here 10 years ago. How long have you been here now?
5 years.
5 years. Like I said briefly earlier before we started filming, Chris is an amazing electrician. But not just an electrician, but an electronics engineer. If there's a problem to be solved, Chris is the man who wants to solve it. And he's like a terrier with a bone. He will not let go of something until he's seen it through to the nth degree. So, just been given a bit of a heads up that you're from the Edinburgh University and you're looking at today how do we achieve energy security, energy equity and environmental sustainability. So Chris and Helen's house is just the epitome of what is possible with a huge amount of wind. And strangely enough, a lot of people I speak to down south don't think that Orkney gets any sunshine. But as you can see, a day like today, we get plenty of sunshine. Admittedly, in the winter we get very short days, which isn't great for solar, but in the summer we get very long days, a lot longer. Now in the past, well in the summer here, I can be watching the 10 o'clock news from Downing Street on the beam, pitch black. And I look out the window and it's like this. So we get longer days up here, but equally, over the year it sort of equals itself out. So solar is a really good option this far north in the UK. So, is everyone aware of the difference between kilowatts and kilowatt hours? Yeah, all nod. So kilowatts is power, is that right, Chris? And kilowatt hours is stored energy. So for instance, here we have Chris's beautiful, I think they're beautiful, Pylon Tech storage batteries. So these are lithium ion, they store energy if he can't use it in his house for normal domestic things. Vast amount of storage. He's got a combination of a huge amount of solar panels and also a wind turbine. So the combination of the two means that Chris and Helen are basically nearly off-grid because they're making their own power. And something probably you've looked at, lots of renewables on Orkney and the rest of the UK, but the problem is when the sun isn't out and the wind isn't blowing, how do we sort of balance that whole grid option that we've got so we can move away from fossil fuel based generation. So this is the key, I felt. So I've got a system at home. When I got battery storage, it transformed my solar array. It really did. So my personal opinion is battery storage is so key to decarbonising our energy use. I've done far too much talking. So just for some stats, I'm going to let Chris take over. This is sort of work in progress with Chris, but at the moment as we speak, he's got 5.5 kilowatts of solar panels, solar PV, photovoltaic panels, on his house roof.
That's on the house.
He's got, as of now, 3.6 kilowatts of solar just leaned up against this wall. He's shortly to have the roof changed. So obviously he's taken these panels off to have a new roof and then put the panels back on. That will be 9.1 kilowatts. So basically soon he'll have a total generation of 20 kilowatts of available generation in his house. He's then got a 2 kilowatt turbine, which you can see later, and also a very clever solar tracker basically tracks the sun with a small array on that, and that's soon to be operational. Battery storage, he's got 80 kilowatt hours of battery storage, and then just behind you, the other way of storing energy is through water. So he's got two ways of heating his house. One is basically underfloor heating with hot water running through a series of pipes, and the other cylinder at the back is for his hot water for baths and washing up, etc. And he's also got, some kind gentleman gave it to him, me, a sun amp heat battery, and that uses what's called phase change materials by a company in Edinburgh. Sun amp are an innovative company in Edinburgh, I think they're based. You're nodding a lot.
I know of the batteries, I know where they're based, but yeah.
So that's provides my hot water at home, and this was surplus to what I need, so I've given it to Chris. So Chris is going to have a play with that. So I'm going to stop talking in a minute, but basically he's got two 250 litre tanks which will store around 7.5 kilowatts of energy each. So combine the two tall ones have a capacity of 15 kilowatt hours of stored energy. And then the two smaller tanks at the back, again that's going to be added to the system later, they're 6 kilowatts each, available stored energy in the form of heat and water. That's 12. So basically, looking at the whole system he's got 20 kilowatts of available energy through solar and wind. He's then got 108 kilowatt hours of stored energy available to him through hot water, sun amps, or lithium-ion batteries. Plus, he's got a 40 kilowatt hour Nissan Leaf from Reflex. You might have heard a bit about Reflex, which I used to be part of. So basically, he's now got 150 kilowatt hours of available stored energy. So you might think, well, is he ever going to fill it? Chris, what's your problem today? Not so loud, mate.
Problem? It's all full. Everything.
Yeah.
The only reason they're running is because we're charging your car.
Yes. So I got here about an hour ago. He went, quick, put it in.
Can you charge a bus?
So if you have too much, is there any policy that allows you to sell the energy back to the grid?
Over to Chris.
Big problem in Orkney is Orkney as an island generates too much electricity. And so the DNO, which is SSE up here, will not let anybody have more than 3.6 kilowatts
Just
of
explain
energy.
what the DNO means.
The
Distribution network
network operator, whatever they are. So they will not let us have more than 3.6 kilowatts feeding back to the grid. So the big issue everybody has here is 3.6, that's it. The way we get around it is you don't grid tie, you battery tie. So everything we generate, bar those inverters there, they're grid tied inverters. These are all battery tied inverters. So the problem you have is when your batteries are full, they switch off. Right, so you need
to. Then your system stops generating, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the issue is a sunny day like today. I don't know, that may be generating now still. What's that one on?
That's 4.4 kilowatts.
Yeah, they haven't got the panels on.
No, nothing on those.
Yeah, so they're still generating 4.4 kilowatts, worth about 90%, 91?
99%.
99%, so they will stop at 100%. Same as the turbine, that's battery tied. You have to try and use your energy.
Just
So,
for clarification.
yeah.
So you're legally bound to separate the 3.6
Yes,
and the battery.
yes. Yeah, there's no way around it. You know, you try and apply for what they call a G99, which is up to 50 kilowatts. They say no. You know,
Why?
because the turbines, unfortunately, all the turbines, I would say, are probably shareholders from SSE. They don't really want to stop their turbines. You know, so.
So why can't you just put why are they capping you at 3.6?
3.6 because there's too much energy. The main reason is there is a big cable runs from Orkney back over to the mainland. That isn't big enough.
Okay.
Right, there is plans in 2027 to put another cable across, which may let us start generating more. But until 2027, the answer is no.
So I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all, but I do question sometimes the likes of SSE who basically run the wires between the villages and the houses here on Orkney. Is it in their interest to encourage people like Chris and myself to have more, make our own electricity, but then come up with this excuse that you're making too much and you're making our job harder, so we're going to put a limit on it. So when the wind isn't blowing, we're going to have to buy it off us anyway. It's just, yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I remember Neil Como told me a long time ago, is that the physical wires that you can see on a pole over there that carry electricity, I think that's 3 phases, isn't it? There's 3 cables?
The 2-phase.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So basically when too much electricity goes through a wire, it gets hot and it actually droops because it's just hot. And there's a law from south that says it can only drop so far because it will hit trees. Have you noticed anything about all this? So the rules for down south have been applied here, which isn't really an issue because we don't have any low-flying trees, low-growing trees. So it's just a bit frustration. That's where EMEC and OREF and Aquaterra are just really constantly trying to work around the rules that are set in stone so that more of this renewable energy can be used. You know. So, any other questions?
We have heard about like peer-to-peer trading. Is that already possible here, or will there be like any future plan to go with that?
Yeah, it is. So I live in a cul-de-sac, a new development, 15-20 minutes from here, and that would be an ideal opportunity if every house, I think there's about 10 houses in our little cul-de-sac, if every house had battery storage, then we could conceivably do peer-to-peer trading and just trade between each other. But again, what do you think the likes of SSE and the grid providers are going to say about that? And I get the point that someone's got to pay for the wires, so when it's not sunny and the wind's not blowing, then we need to get some off the grid. Well, if we're independent of the grid, who's paying for the wires to maintain the infrastructure? So it's a difficult problem, but it's something that is technically possible, it really is, but there's a horrendous amount of red tape that stops stuff like that happening.
We do have in the house, we have an auto transfer switch, so if we do get a power cut, I think it's 0.4 of a second.
This is such a cool bit of kit.
Yeah, you've got one as well.
Yeah, I've got one.
We have these are what they call auto transfers.
Can we just backtrack just a little bit? What happens normally if you've got battery storage and we have a power cut? What happens without that?
The lights go out.
Yeah, even though he's got all this stored energy.
Yeah.
And that's because if Joe Bloggs is fixing a wire down the road, and this isn't isolated, he's going to get very spiky hair very quickly. So the way they've done it is if there's a break in if there's a power cut anywhere due to a pole coming down, everything has to be isolated. But this switch enables you to do what?
This it's called islanding. So the house becomes its own generator. So this turns off the live, the neutral and the earth. So they'll feed 63 amps, so you are limited to what we call them critical circuits really. So we can run all the lights, the heating, because everything's heated here, we can still run all the heating, the lights. We tend to run one ring main. So mainly your kitchen ring main keeps your fridge on, your freezer, stuff like that. We don't really get that many now. We used to get them 6-7 hours at a time sometimes. So these are ideal. You can work them 2 ways. So you can, like we are, you're in on grid. If you get a power cut, then you can go off grid. We have tried them. We did, I can't remember how long we did it, Helen. Was it 2 or 3 months in the summer? We turned them round, so we actually run the whole place as an island, and if the batteries run out, it would revert back to grid. But again, SSE aren't keen on you doing that because you're not using their energy. So, you know.
How does that work from a standing charge perspective?
You still pay the standing charge. So, our bills similar to yours. In the summer, I think we were around about £18-19 a month, and I would say probably 16 of that was standing charge. Because whenever you're grid connected, you will always use a little bit of energy. These, I don't know if you're all aware of the My Energy systems, the Zappies and the Eddies. What they do, they monitor the main incoming supply, and so if it sees energy going out, it'll store it either in hot water or like into your car. The other way it does it is if it sees it coming in, it tries to stop that by taking it out the batteries. So it tries to keep, it's always a reactive system, so it will always use a little bit or you'll lose a little bit, but generally you'll be down to 1 or 2 kilowatts a month.
And how fast does that switch over, Chris? Just give us an idea. So you've got a power
You can't tell, to be honest with you, the computer doesn't go off.
The lights don't even flicker when that switches over. It's quite
Just hear it.
fantastic.
You hear it go clunk. The worst thing is when the power goes off and on, you hear it going clunk, clunk, clunk,
But you don't see any
No.
difference in an incandescent ball, do you?
No.
Or anything?
no, nothing.
No. Really
So
fast.
really quick.
Yeah.
Brilliant piece of kit.
Where'd you get that from?
China.
China. Same old. Yeah.
Same old. But yep, that's how it works. But our biggest problem is everything is AC monitored. Everything. The downside to having battery tied systems is when the batteries are full, you start to export, but the generation stops, the turbine stops, and we're now working on stopping that by monitoring the DC voltage of the batteries. So we've actually just started printing them. They came this morning. I printed these up, little tiny, I can't pronounce it. That's it. Little tiny units, got built-in Wi-Fi, and I can send that to my phone, and it'll send all the information I need, and it'll send send it to a relay, and I can try and switch something else on. Just to try and keep the batteries lower, to keep the turbine spinning. There's lots of ways to do it, but it just gets difficult. But
The interesting thing when you've got renewables at home, wind or solar, is when you might be my age, you become obsessed with the weather.
you do,
So
you're right.
I'm on a cheap rate tariff with Octopus Energy, which will charge my EVs through the winter at a cheap rate between half 12 and half 4. But then come this time of year, when the days are getting longer and we're getting better weather, it's like, do I charge tonight paying 7p units, or do I go on the forecast for the Met Office because tomorrow's going to be really sunny? See, I'm constantly looking at the weather because the last thing I want is to fill my batteries or fill my car, and the next day it's like this, and I'm dumping it on the grid. So I find that really interesting as a geek. So it's just brilliant because I'm constantly planning. My wife's constantly saying, if you weren't here, how would I work this all out? I'm really got my answer to that.
Yeah, well,
Do you constantly look at the weather as well?
not so much now I've got the turbine.
No.
Yeah. It's just going on to the turbines, we have tried so many turbines, haven't we?
Oh, so look, the ones above your head, just talk us through what happened to the light one.
That one was Storm Isha killed that one. That one, you can see the tips of the blades are actually broke. That's where they hit the pole. Because we have a weather station up here, and it was 105 mile an hour gusts we're getting up here. Now most of these are rated to 50 metres a second, which is over 110 miles an hour, but they just don't last. That is the issue. If you look behind Ellen, there's another one that's dangling. That's going to be the next victim that we put up there.
So which mark are we on now? Is it mark 6?
Probably 7 or
Mark
8,
eight.
yeah.
So Chris has gone through 7 turbines, which always emphasises to me that the power of the wind is just incredible, and yet
It's a good test site up here.
Yeah.
But I was hoping, we've got a German company sending us one up that's supposed to self-curtailing. This is the new way to do it. Especially when we're obviously looking at 48 volt turbines here. They're not the massive ones, but they're working in the same process. But we're hoping that we're going to get one that actually works. The one that's up there today.
They're all hybrids, aren't they?
Yeah,
Different
they are.
ones.
We keep getting broken ones, and we keep trying different ways to keep them going.
Toys, Toy Story.
so Chris takes the gearing off one and the shaft of another and the blades off something
So
else
we
and
have-
he mackles something up, and in fact the one you've got up now has lasted the longest.
It has, yeah. I don't know why it's not that windy. It's only doing about 100. Well, it's 150, 300,
That's on this
300.
box you're looking at here.
Yeah, 300 watts. So it's not that windy today. We actually reduced the tower down. We did start at 8 metres, or we're down to 4.5 now, because we don't need the height. We have found. But same with the tracker, the solar tracker. I was hoping to get the panels on it, but after, was it Isha? No, it was Henk was up here, and it was blowing a gale really, and the panels were flexing, and it actually damaged the gearbox on it. I've only just repaired the gearbox on it, and I thought with these winds it was just too risky to put them on. But I have got it set at the morning position. If you want to see it operate and turn around, I can switch it on. You'll see the frame come round. But I was hoping to get, because again, this is part of OREF do give us grants to try these. OREF contributed to this because the 3 inverters you've got there, the one closest to me will be connected to the 4 panels that will be on the tracker. As a comparison, there's another 8 panels out here on the other 2. It's claimed that tracking the sun will give you 40% more. So we thought, well, this is the way to try it. And so we put 4 identical panels on the tracker, same as there's 2 sets of 4 out here, and hopefully we should get a comparison to see whether we do actually get a 40%. But if you wanted to have a look outside, you want to watch it go round, if you just go out on the slab, you'll see it. Go on then.
So for a household like this that want to like install renewable energy, do you do it like privately funded, or do you mention like grant funded?
The only grants we've got was from OREF. Otherwise we've funded it ourselves.
The government doesn't.
Home Energy Scotland will give a loan, but it has to be on your energy performance certificate. It's
Yes.
recommended measure, and then they cap the price at about 4,000 for a wind turbine, and they're way more than 4,000 pounds.
The problem you do get is to get a grant you have to be registered to install, and if you're paying people that are registered, it'll cost you more money to get them installed, even though you might get an interest-free loan to put them in. It still costs you more money. So
There's a lot of red tape.
there is.
There's a lot of greedy people as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So basically, I installed my system. I've got 9.2 kilowatts on my south-facing roof in Iron. I installed it myself with Chris, another builder. We put scaffolding in, put the rails in. So mine's a self-build, so it wasn't done by an MCS accredited installer, because they're as good as Chris. And it's just that you have to have a fancy load of titles after your name, and you pay for that. And how much was it to be and going off the topic there, how much was it cost to be an MCS accredited installer per year, with a certificate?
£2 grand.
£2 a year, just to say that you've done all the courses that Chris has done.
I've already done.
Of.
Yeah, so we don't bother with them.
So if you wanted to go for the EST loan, you've got to go through an MCS, but you'll pay more, because they've got to pay. It's like a Masonic old man's club. Correct me if I'm wrong. One solar panel that's a 400-watt panel costs around £100 each. So I've got 30 panels on my roof, so basically that's £3,000. Just really rough ballpark figure. How much is one inverter? 800-900?
Just over £1 grand now.
£1,000, so that's 4. Wires, cabling, labour. So for around £5,000, you can have a 30-panel 9-kilowatt system with and you'd be done. Now, if you went to a proper company that's MCS accredited, what would you be looking at? 15, 20?
Probably 12 for the same system.
Yeah.
Start adding batteries. That's where it's cost.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be MCS accredited. That is the whole point. You know, it's voluntary. So it's down. You know, we are proper electricians. The fact I choose not to pay some quango £2 grand a year is my choice.
I've gone way off topic.
So, any questions before we go? Before I turn the tracker on?
I kind of got one which is sort of related, which is like what there used to be like things like feed-in tariffs and stuff like that that kind of got people to put solar panels on, more grants and stuff like that. Obviously, a lot of that stuff's dropped off.
It has.
What now would be good policy, effective, or what would you guys see as good policy to increase the rate of uptake of people putting home energy systems in?
That's a good question.
I think the feed-in tariff, you can get some power companies will give you a feed-in tariff is usually based on a system being installed by an MCS accredited
Goods,
installer.
yeah, sex payments. Yeah.
So, but when the payments do come through, they're like, is it 1 or 2p a kilowatt?
I think Octopus have been paying 7p.
Oh, okay, so it's gone up there. So.
Before we moved up to Orkney, we were contracting to a company that we kept around about the 50 kilowatt mark. Was installing mainly on farms because 50 kilowatts will take you up to the old G98. So you were just below the big boys that were installed in the fields.
Yeah.
And so I think the biggest one we did was 300 kilowatts in a field, but mainly stick to the 50 kilowatts and you could make a good living at it. But then when you move up here, nobody will have 50 kilowatts up here.
Yeah.
You know.
The feed-in tariff did tail off.
Yeah.
It did the initial surge of getting things installed. So my previous house in Leicester, I had a 1.5 kilowatt system, and I was earning from the feed-in tariff, which was at 43p at the time. I was earning something like £700 or £800 a year just for generators.
Yeah.
But that did its job because you got everyone excited, loads of companies sprung up, and then when that got chopped, a load of companies went down. So I think it's laid the groundwork for people to go, do you know what, if we've got the spare cash, it makes sense to fit solar if we've got a south-facing roof.
Well, tell
so
them
we've got to go.
your system, how long does it took to pay for itself?
Yeah, so one of my videos, my YouTube channel, that's lots of questions. So basically I worked out, I run 2 electric vehicles, and if they were diesels, and I worked out, 20,000 miles a year, how much would it cost me in diesel, blah, blah, blah. I've spent about £15,000 on battery storage, panels, inverters, labour. I reckon by year 3.5, I'd save 15 grand. So by year 4, I'm actually and the panels have got a life of, I don't really know, but they say around 20-year lifespan on the solar panel.
Yeah. Well, the panels out here, and what's on the tracker, are 18 years old. They were on my house south. We bought them up here. I think we've moved them about 3 or 4 times, but they still generate as good as what they did before.
So if you do the calculations, it makes such a lot of financial sense.
Clarification, on that 15k grand, you said that one of it is labor. Did you go through the MSc?
No, that's
It's
it.
me, innit?
It's a different accreditation.
Make straight. But the thing that got me is, I initially had 4 of these blocks, if you like, 4 of these units, battery storage. Within a month, I rang up Chris and I went, I want another 4. Because I was filling them so fast. And I just hate dumping on the grid, is what I call it.
Yeah.
So I've now gone for...
Yeah, these are batteries as well, that I'm sat on actually.
18 kilowatts total, right?
Yes.
18 kilowatt hours.
Yeah.
18.
Yeah, these are batteries as well. These are just different Island batteries, but they're all connected. That's why they all connect through onto a bus bar. So each pile is individually connected to a bus bar. Each inverter's connected to it, and they're not, but the turbine's connected to it. So everything is connected on a 48 volt bus bar.
So the other geeky thing that I do, I've got a Zapier at home, and you've got an app, so you can monitor how much energy is going into my Kia Niro, which is plugged in as we speak. Then I can see on the app when my house batteries are full. My wife's made some beautiful cakes. The washing's all done, and I'm still dumping on the grid. I message my neighbours, most of them have all got EVs now. I tell them to go around and plug in, because I hate seeing it go to waste. Because the reality is, when I'm dumping onto the grid, the physical electricity, if I can call it physical, will go down the wire out my house, and it can go into next door's ass if they're boiling the kettle. Their meter will turn, they'll get charged for electricity I've made, and I'm like, that's just wrong. So my neighbours ring up and go, well, how much do you want? I'm like, well, I don't want anything, because otherwise it's just been dumped, thrown away.
It is a use it or lose it.
Yeah. So like this afternoon, Chris said, get here as quick as you can with an EV that's half full, because I'm dumping. So as soon as I got here, I'm dumping.
So you can see on my phone, if you want, you can see that the solar is feeding the house. So, but I can see the hot water, which is the tanks. I can see the temperature of the tanks.
And you can change the priority as
Yeah,
well.
That's 54, one's at 50. So the distribution. At the moment I'm taking a very small amount from the grid. That'll stop. So you can see.
Just like water.
Yeah.
Battery. Oh.
The battery, that is the battery and solar all in one. So, do you want to show them the sun amp?
Oh yes, yeah. So
If you want to have a look at
you
it.
knew what the sun amp was, didn't you?
Yeah.
Does anyone aware of what phase change materials are?
These are really cool things.
So
You'll have to be quick though.
yes. So we had a project on Orkney called, I can't remember, it was to alleviate curtailment on one of the islands just off to the west called Mousey. It's too complicated to explain, but basically I've got a free exchange for my water tank. So a conventional water cylinder, 240 litres, was replaced by these phase change materials. So basically that takes electricity to turn something acetate, sodium acetate,
Somebody else tell me.
which is the same ingredient as what's in salt vinegar crisps. It's liquid, so if you flip this off and drank it, salt vinegar. But anyway, these are little hand warmers. So what happens is when you turn on your hot tap and you want some hot water, this happens. So
If you want to
your
video,
tap-
you want to video it.
Does anyone want to video it changing? You don't have to.
It can change from liquid
Yeah,
to.
it's already gone.
Oh, so basically if you took that, it's like a hand warmer.
Yeah.
So that phase change material reaction creates heat. So the way SunAmp have done it, they've found a way of developing a heat exchange and a way of controlling that reaction. Now in order to get, eventually that will cool down. If you want to pass it down, you can. When that cools down, it stays solid and it'll be cold. So all the energies come out of it. So the way of putting the energy back in, well, what do you think? How do you get the energy back in? Throw it down there.
You heat it up again.
Yeah, so you put it with that as a little experiment. You put it in a pan of hot water, which is obviously energy you're putting in it. So what SunAmp has done is found a way of taking electricity to turn that back into a liquid and ready for the next activation through a heat exchange. The advantage is you can store a huge amount of energy, and unlike a hot water cylinder tank that's got to be highly insulated, it's sitting there hot all the time, that's cold until you ask for the heat.
Yeah.
So it's a really effective way. And a byproduct of that is you don't get any legionnaires or any nasty bugs in 240 litres of hot water, because it's only heating at any one time, I think around 7 litres in a big stack. So it's good from a health point of view as well. So that's another way of storing energy. So you've got a SunAmp heat battery storing energy in hot water or in lithium ion, or direct off the roof, off the wind turbine into an EV as fuel.
So what's the efficiency rate of the phase changing?
It's very good, and I don't know off the top of my head. SunAmp have got a really technical website. So if you Google SunAmp, there's loads of technical stuff in there.
I'm just curious,
But
I'm
it's
from
working now.
a
Yeah.
place that gets fairly harsh winters, and a lot of the consideration with like outset costs and that kind of thing is about upgrading the outgoings of the batteries that might need to keep them warm enough. I'm just wondering if you guys experienced any of that kind of thing.
That's a good question. So personally, so you can get some Tesla power walls that bolt on the side of your house.
Yes.
So my gut feeling was, it's really cold. Lithium-ion batteries don't like being cold. They don't like being hot. They like being like at room temperature, our temperature. So I've got my lithium-ion batteries inside my house, just inside my doorway, so it never gets cold. Chris, your thoughts on temperature range?
I've never had a problem with these at all, and we do get, I would say it probably dropped down to freezing in here, but I don't think it's never had a problem. We would never drop these below 20%. I think, is it 80% working with lithium?
Lithium ions between 20 and 80%.
Yeah, so we do keep these always at 20%. If they drop below 20%, they will charge themselves back up. The inverters will charge them back up again, so we don't get an issue. If you get them too low, too cold, then they won't recover.
They've got it quickly out, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they don't recover. So
You've got to sort of look after them. It's a bit like an EV. if you drove an EV till it stopped, you wouldn't let it leave it for a month uncharged because you would damage it. And the same the other way, you wouldn't charge your EV to 100% but it's an airport car park for weeks because you would damage it. So,
Yeah. I'm not sure whether these will discharge if over a certain.
a lot of buffers, sorry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of buffers. When the partners come a buffer, so when it says 100%, it's probably 95. So there's a bit of buffer at the top and the same the other way. There's always a bit. So if you run an EV down to nothing, so this Leaf it's got a 39 kilowatt hour battery, it's got about 36 usable. So it leaves 2 kilowatts at the top and the bottom of the battery.
To limp home,
I've done that a few times, I get rid of that as well.
And as regards life of lithium-ion batteries,
Yeah, this is where
I'm
I've
quite
got.
pleased about this. So my little grey Zoe out there, because I used to be a car dealer, I've sold my business. Basically, I bought that from an auction on the south coast. That 3-year-old Renault Zoe with a 50 kilowatt hour battery has got 114,000 miles on it. And its state of health of the lithium-ion pack is at 89%. So it's lost around 11% over 100,000 miles. So lithium-ion, it works in these and it works as battery storage.
Yeah, I think these are about 98.
Oh yeah, we drove home from Southampton back up to Orkney. I've done numerous times in different areas, so it's not a problem.
You're off time.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Do you want to go and see the tracker being turned on?
I'll turn it on. As I say, there's no panels on it. I'm hoping it'll work now.
And is your turbine on as well, Chris?
No, that's switched off now. Oh no, it's back on again. No, it's back on. Yeah, it's turned itself back on again now. So
it's just turning now, guys. The solar track, you probably see it. Obviously, imagine it with panels on. So as you can see, that's the solar tracker. And with my very dodgy camera work, you can start to see it trying to track the sun. Obviously, there's no panels on it. But it was great to have the students up from Edinburgh University. They were really engaging and they thoroughly enjoyed the day. So thanks for them. And I hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.